Thank you for downloading from Ravi Zacharias International Ministries. Support for this podcast comes from your generous gifts and donations. You can find out more about Ravi Zacharias and the team at www.rzim.org.
He somehow thinks I'm looking for a long speech or a long explanation or some kind of a propositional solution to the situation. She says, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why it is wrong. I only want to know that he loves me and that he cares for me.
We live in a world where people have lost faith in marriage. Optimism has been replaced with skepticism. What does it take to make a relationship stand the test of time? Join us for the answers as we look at the story of Isaac and Rebekah. Today on Just Thinking with author and apologist Ravi Zacharias. Welcome back to Just Thinking. When you look for qualities in a spouse, what strikes you as being the most important? Intelligence, beauty, character. Ravi Zacharias has been presenting a message this week about the union of two remarkable people from the Old Testament, Isaac and Rebekah. The attribute that Ravi looks at today is a simple one that we often overlook, but it's one we miss dearly when it's absent. Let's join Ravi and find out what character trait made Rebekah so attractive as a spouse.
Not only was the will involved, in the process of selection, Rebekah emerges to me as a lovely woman in her kindness. I don't know if you and I have ever given thought to how much a camel drinks. You know, I'm not sure I would have wanted to give one camel her load of drink for the day. This girl said, I'll give all 10 of them. You just relax, sir. I'll not only give you the water, I will take care of your camels too. The sense of chivalry and the sense of kindness that emerges. When one travels and one visits different cultures, you get into different settings, you get into different homes. And one of the things that always leaps out in any relationship, if you notice a couple that is unkind in their relationship to each other. And I want to go so far as to say there is never a reason to be unkind. There may be reasons to disagree. There may be reasons to struggle. After all, two wills are merging into one. There are constant compromises and surrenders, but there is never a reason to be unkind. Particularly when you're tempering with the very fragile nature of people's sensitivities. I have prayed constantly that God will so fill our bodies and our minds with His presence that even in some of the difficult moments, if we have to go through them of disagreement, there will never be a reason so strong to force one person to be rude to the other. I like what Chuck Swindoll says in one of his descriptions. It's a magnificent word. He talks about cherishing your partner. I don't know if Dr. Dobson addresses this, but I think if he does in this area, somebody once talked to me about it. I certainly believe he is correct in stating this. There are times in your relationship of husband and wife, and I really don't say this to be ridiculous or funny, but a woman's mind being what it is, there are times she will actually look at you and say to you, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling very, very unhappy, and I really can't even tell you what the reason is. All I know is that I want to be loved. There are times when no amount of talk is what she's looking for, possibly just the putting of the arm around and that of comfort. And I've had people come into the counseling room and say this to me, that he somehow thinks I'm looking for a long speech or a long explanation or some kind of a propositional solution to the situation. She says, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why it is wrong. I only want to know that he loves me and that he cares for me. It's that kind of kindness, I think, that is able to walk the second mile. I think Jesus pinpointed this in a different relationship very powerfully. When Jesus was alive, the Roman yoke was heavy upon the Jewish shoulder. And the Jews resented the Romans for their power, their dominance, and their bullying of the Jewish people. They wanted a Messiah who would throw off the Roman yoke and do away with it, and do it with tremendously punitive measures upon the Roman monarchy there. But Jesus didn't have that idea. And at one point, one of the men came up to Jesus and said something like this, "Could you please tell me, there is a law in our land once that if a Roman soldier comes to me and asks me to carry his heavy arms and ammunition for him, that I as a Jew by law am to walk with him 1 mile and carry this weight for him. Jesus, you are so strong in your wisdom. Can you tell me the next time he comes and asks me, just by virtue of being a Jew, having his right over me, to carry his arms and ammunition, what should I do to him?" They were really looking for a kind of a punch in the nose answer. Jesus looked and said, "The next time he comes and asks you to walk with him 1 mile, at the end of the 1 mile, pause and look into his eyes and say to him, 'Sir, would you mind if I carry it the second also?'" I don't know who wrote it in the United States, but there is an unwritten law in the country that says it is always the responsibility of the man of the house to carry the garbage out. Isn't that true, men? I don't know where this idea was born, but wherever you go, it's always the man who's carrying the garbage out. And when I lived in Chicago, going to Trinity, the garbage dump was about 50 yards away from where we lived. And Chicago can get pretty windy and icy. And it didn't matter what the hour was. Every time I went out, my wife would always come to wish me goodbye at the door, which was fine. She'd always come with a bag of garbage. And generally the eggshells would be carefully placed right on the top. So what do you think, on a Sunday morning, I'm going out, maybe driving 200 miles to preach. What do? Grab the garbage bag and say, "Here, give it to me." And go over to the garbage dump and jam it into the drums while the cats and dogs are pouncing all over the place. Get into the car and slam the door and start the engine and squeal the tires and pull out of there, pull into the church parking lot, get the praise the Lord syndrome hurriedly on you, stand behind the pulpit and say, "Isn't it wonderful to be serving the Lord so willingly?" Oh, no. You take the garbage bag very gently so you don't hurt either her or the garbage. You take it as you slide across that miserable ice, probably whistling "Everything is Beautiful" in its own way. Put it into the drum very casually. End of mile 1. And then you go back and knock on the door and make sure she doesn't get a coronary now. And say, "Honey, I still have 10 minutes to go. Would you mind if I helped you with the dishes before I left?" Love suffers long and is kind. And the Bible says to provoke one another to good works. Young people, this is the moment in your life, please hear me, when he who is wooing you will be at his kindest. And if you do not see that kindness in that person, watch out. For that partnership will be nourished and nurtured on the basis of a love that is not arrogant, but a love that is kind. The selection by an authority other than just himself, the kindness of the person that was being selected, and thirdly, and very pivotally, it says she was pure, she was a virgin, neither had she lain with any man. The reason for that is the Hebrew word for virgin there does not mean biological virginity. It can also be translated a young maiden. But just so that you and I are sure, because it could mean virginity, he punctuates it and says she was a young maiden and was one who had not lain with any man, clearly describing her as a woman who had treated her body as the temple of the living God. That is one of the greatest gifts you can give to your partner. That you have respected this body, that you have treated it with all the purity, in spite of all of the surroundings of temptation. You have learned to honor this body as a temple that God has given to you. Please listen now. When Moses went to the top of Sinai, he was given detailed directions of how to build the tabernacle. So long and no longer, so wide and no wider, so high and no higher, such and such a color, so many curtain rods, so many curtain rings, such and such a shape, such dimensions. Nobody is to touch such and such except so and so and so and so of the tribe of so and so. Everything was meticulously, precisely, in a detailed way given. And just in case Moses missed it, it was repeated in the book of Exodus again. He says, Moses, when you have finished building this tabernacle, exactly as I have told you, there I will meet with you. Now, when you and I build a church, we don't go to Mount Sinai, do we? But I'll tell you where church is now. When we come to the church now, we don't come to the sanctuary. We bring our sanctuaries with us. I firmly believe that in this mortal body, God meets with me. And if I prostitute this, if I squander it in illegitimate, adulterous, vile relationships, if I have wasted away the mandates of God for this body, He cannot meet with me here, for God cannot look upon sin in comfort. Let me give to you a powerful principle, and please forgive me, young people, for being so blunt, but I have covered many, many college campuses in North America. I have done many of them, and I want to say this kindly and honestly before God. Some of our so-called Christian college campuses, some of them, not all of them, obviously, but some of them have sent out young people out of there who are so messed up when they leave. They have messed themselves up in the 3 to 4 years while they are there. They went to a Bible college thinking it'll keep them from temptation. They go to a Bible college to find out just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're above temptation. I spoke in one college for 5 nights. I took my wife Margie with me. I was speaking morning and evening. God's my witness in this. I was counseling non-stop through the whole day. I took her with me because I thought we'd have time. In 5 days, I just had one dinner with her. From morning till night, every young fellow or girl who came, with the exception of one young lad who was seeking the mind of God for missionary work, in 5 days, sandwiched from morning till night, even my lunch was being eaten while I was talking with kids. Every one of them, except for one, was morally ruined. So hear me carefully. Inside you may mock, but on the outside you'll find out what I'm saying to you is true.
We hope that you've been learning much this week from the courtship story of Isaac and Rebekah. If you'd like to order the complete message on CD or the book by the same title, please call us at 1-800-448-6766 and ask for I, Isaac, Take You, Rebekah. That number again is 1-800-448-6766. Or you can order online at rzim.org, where you can also find information on all of the materials available through our ministry. You can also access free resources such as articles, links, and audio downloads. All of our items are designed to encourage and strengthen you as you deal with life's most pressing questions. We also encourage you to sign up for our daily email, A Slice of Infinity, which examines the intersection of faith and culture. That's all at rzim.org. Just Thinking is a listener-supported radio ministry and is furnished by Ravi Zacharias International Ministries. To send any questions, comments, or donations by mail, write to RZIM, Post Office Box 921939, Norcross, Georgia 30010. I'm Bob Dittmer. Be sure to tune in again tomorrow as we air Part 4 of Ravi Zacharias' message, I, Isaac, Take You, Rebekah. Until then, keep thinking.